Hello everyone, and welcome back to another look at the Whispers of the Old Gods card reveals. We've been getting cards pretty quickly now, which is cool because definitely lots of new stuff to get excited about, but also means that I got to make these videos very, very quickly before I get overwhelmed with lots of new cards. But anyway, let's just jump right in. So the first card I want to talk about is Mark of Yashraj, which I think is the correct pronunciation. I'm sure people gave me lots of feedback in the comments before, but Yashraj, I think that's right. But anyway, I think this card is pretty exciting, in part because I think that it's great to see Druid cards that are actually looking like they're sort of pushed in from a power level perspective that go toward the sort of beast synergy route. We've seen that before with cards like Druid of the Fang, Wild Walker. A lot of those have been pretty unimpressive just in terms of the return you get for really the cost that you're paying from having to play this beast-based deck. This, though, the upfront rate is totally fine, giving a minion +2/+2. That can be a valuable tool to trade with in a lot of situations. But getting to draw a card if that minion is a beast makes this just, obviously a fantastic rate. So I think this is going to be a cornerstone of beast druid decks if those decks do end up existing. And it looks like Blizzard is moving in the direction that is an element of the Druid class they're looking to push, rather than just sort of the good stuff mana acceleration. So definitely a card that I expect to see a pretty significant amount of constructed play. All right, next card is Steward of Darkshire. This is kind of the Oppo Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin's a card that I was a big fan of. I really enjoyed building decks trying to make Hobgoblin work. Never quite felt like it was sort of top tier competitive level because you're playing with a lot of otherwise relatively weak cards. And Hobgoblin itself comes with the cost of just being a kind of an understated minion for 3 mana. But Steward of Darkshire, it's a little bit weaker in terms of how much it's buffing the minions. With Hobgoblin, you're getting +2/+2, which is a huge boost to these small minions, whereas with Steward, you're getting Divine Shield, but they are on minions that would otherwise be quite weak. At least defensively, obviously, because they're 1 health minions that it's buffing. This can be very powerful with things like Wolf Rider or just leper gnomes and abusive sergeants, that kind of thing, to give them a little bit more stickiness, make them less vulnerable to AoE type effects. I don't really see this as being the kind of card that you necessarily build a deck around like you do with Hobgoblin, because the payoff isn't really as big in terms of what you're getting out of it. You're not going to necessarily build a deck with this in like Magma Rager or something, because Magma Rager, the payoff, it's decent. 5/1 Divine Shield is probably pretty good, but obviously the situations where you just draw Magma Rager by itself, it's pretty bad, and you're not getting a huge return kind of like you did with Hobgoblin. So I don't really see this as being likely to be a sort of archetype defining card. If Hobgoblin didn't really show up as sort of a powerful competitive card, Steward of Darkshire, I think, has less of an impact, and I think offers less real incentive to build around it. So it's a cool card, and I think that it may end up seeing a little bit of play, but not really something that immediately jumps out to me as being particularly impressive to build around. Ravaging Ghoul. This is sort of the second coming of Unstable Ghoul as far as tools to give a deck ways to deal with small minions in large numbers. Obviously, this is potentially a tool for a deck like Grim Patron, or a deck that uses other damage synergy cards like Acolyte of Pain or Axe Flinger. It's a little bit less powerful than Unstable Ghoul in terms of actually enabling Grim Patron, because you can't just sort of set it up ahead of time and then play the patron generate guys with the ghoul that's already in play. It's more powerful in terms of actually removing opposing minions, because obviously you get the effect immediately. Less effective against things with charge, like Unleash the Hounds or Wolf Rider, obviously because it doesn't have taunt like Unstable Ghoul does. But we're likely to see more warrior cards in the future that do care about the sort of self-damage thing. It's very much a mechanic that Blizzard keeps going back to. So Ravaging Ghoul, I think, is likely to be a card that will have a lot of possibilities to see play down the road as well. All right, Mire Keeper. This is a card that's pretty strong. not only can it just give you a 5/5 split over 2 bodies for 4 mana, which is obviously quite good, but it can also actually just ramp you. So if you need immediate board presence against a deck like, say, Zoo, you have 4 mana to actually play 2 bodies, which against a deck like Zoo can actually be better than having 1 big body, because it won't just be removed by 1 small guy that gets pumped by Abusive Sergeant or Power Overwhelming, things like that. It can also be good in a deck like Token Druid, just to generate multiple bodies for a single card. Can allow you to sort of go wide and pump your team with Power of the Wild, things like that. But I imagine what we'll mostly see this used for is the mana ramp ability, giving you sort of additional redundancy on top of Wild Growth and Innervate in terms of getting you to the ability to play big minions. It'll be interesting to see how exactly Blizzard is changing the classic cards for Druid, because this card seems like it obviously fits in the exact same shell that we've seen for so long. The Wild Growth into 4-drop, into Innervate, into 5-drop or 7-drop or whatever. And we're going to see some pieces of that beyond just Force of Nature Savage Roar be toned down a bit, I would expect, particularly with the introduction of this card. So definitely a card that will see a lot of competitive play, and exactly where it will fit in sort of the echelon of Druid ramp and such will remain to be seen based on exactly how the classic cards are changed. So Master Evolution. This is pretty obviously just a great card. It starts with just a totally reasonable rate, 4/5 body for 4 mana. Identical to Chillwind Yeti, which, while it hasn't seen play in a while thanks to Piloted Shredder, was sort of the gold standard of 4-drops in classic Hearthstone. So, totally reasonable body, and then this Battlecry effect, which is not only just Recombobulator, but Recombobulator +1. That's a really, really powerful effect, especially if you're able to use it on minions that have already gotten some amount of value. If you attack your minion into your opponent's minion, you have a bunch of damage on it, then you Master Evolution it, you're already getting paid off, even if it didn't give you a larger minion with the ability. So with this, you'll be able to ramp your small minions into bigger minions, even after they've been damaged, and that's just a very, very powerful effect. So I expect this to be a very popular constructed card in mid-range style Shaman decks, and we've actually seen quite a few powerful Shaman cards revealed in sort of quick succession. So it's interesting that they all kind of do go the mid-range Shaman route rather than fitting into aggro Shaman, which is obviously one of the decks that is very popular right now that loses the least in the rotation. So let's actually just jump into the next mid-range Shaman card, which is Thing from Below. Now this is, 6 cost 5/5 taunt, doesn't sound very impressive, but costs 1 less for each totem you summon this game. Now that's actually a very powerful effect, because you can potentially get this down to easily 4 mana, perhaps even 3 or 2, or even 0 mana, in a long game, and having the ability to play this along with something else like, say, Mana Tide Totem. It's one of the cards that is always pretty difficult to establish board presence with, to get value out of, because you have to pay the 3 mana alongside whatever else you're developing. But if you've had sort of this long game going on, and you can eventually play Thing from Below, Mana Tide Totem in the same turn, you can actually play the Mana Tide, which reduces the cost of Thing from Below. They work together. It's like it's planned. But just the ability to generate a significant amount of board presence for less than you expect that to cost is a very powerful thing. You can play this at the same turn as Elemental Destruction. If you reduce the cost of this sufficiently, you could potentially play it on a turn you're massively overloaded as well, which is one of the drawbacks that Shaman often has to deal with, simply because so many of its powerful cards do have the overload drawback. So this is super powerful card that I expect to see as a staple in quite a few mid-range Shaman decks moving forward. And lastly, yet another Shaman card, Hammer of Twilight. Now this, I think, is a card that's kind of gotten underrated by a lot of people who've looked at it. They look at it and they see 4 attack, 2 durability weapon for 5. That's obviously not in itself particularly strong, but we do have a lot of things that have 4 health that people tend to play around that point in the curve. Obviously, Azure Drake. If there are popular dragon decks, there's Blackwing Corruptor. Being able to attack into other taunts with smaller minions as well. Just 4 is actually a pretty reasonable flashpoint for a lot of minions, and you're getting a lot of value out of this card. Not only are you getting 2 attacks with a 4 power weapon that's only slightly costed more than True Silver Champion, you also just get a 4/2 body at the end of it. And if your opponent does kill your weapon, you still get that 4/2 body. So I think this is a card that's actually fairly powerful. It's obviously going to be oriented toward a mid-range value style of Shaman deck. If you're looking to kill your opponent, Doomhammer is still much better, especially with Rockbiter weapon. But I do think that this is a card that, while it won't be really a staple, in the right kind of environment, I actually think that this is likely to see a reasonable amount of play. And in Arena, I think this is actually a very powerful card because both weapons and the body, getting this additional body into play in a turn that you're not spending mana on it is super, super strong. So I think this card is getting very much underrated, and certainly do think it will see play. So that is it for this group of cards. I'm sure there'll be even more that have been revealed by the time that people see this and are going to ask, what about this? You didn't go over this, but that's what next time is for. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you do want to check out my future videos and what I have to say about other cards in Whispers of the Old Gods. I'll see you next time.